Today we're taking a deep dive into a concept that I think really resonates with a lot of our listeners. The nature of life consciousness and the path to liberation. And we're going to be drawing on the text, the essence of samsara and the path to liberation, withdrawing consciousness from materialization.
Yes.
It's a dense text, but it's packed with thought-provoking insights.
It is.
So we're going to try to unpack some of those for you today.
Absolutely.
So the text starts by asking us to really consider what life is, beyond just saying that it's inherently valuable.
Right. It challenges us right from the beginning.
It does. It posits that life is really all about experience and the development of consciousness, and that this ranges, from its implicit form in plants to the explicit awareness that we experience as humans.
It's fascinating to think about that spectrum of consciousness. And one of the things that the text points out, which I find so intriguing, is that even our most complex thoughts are ultimately rooted in sensory experiences. We can't imagine anything that we haven't encountered through our senses in some way. Take a moment and think about your own ideas and beliefs. Can you actually trace them back to their sensory origins?
It's an interesting exercise to kind of deconstruct your own understanding of the world, right? Like, where did this idea come from?
Absolutely. And that leads to the introduction of the self in the text, the I that's having all these perceptions, having these experiences. It's the central point of reference for everything that we encounter.
Okay, so we have life as experience, we have the self as the experiencer.
Right.
And then how does the text kind of build on that idea?
Well, it delves into these different layers of self, starting with the most obvious, the physical body. But then it goes beyond that. It talks about the vital energy, the life force itself, and then it moves to the mental and intellectual layers.
Right. So it creates this kind of multifaceted understanding of what the self is.
It does, but it doesn't stop there.
No, it goes further.
It goes further. The text makes this really interesting observation that we often extend our sense of self outward. To encompass things like our family, our community, our nation even.
Right.
And on the surface, this might seem like a selfless way of living. We're thinking about something bigger than ourselves, but the text actually challenges that notion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It argues that this outward expansion of the self is actually a projection of our own individual needs and desires onto these larger groups. For example, think about the head of a family who's deeply invested in their family's honor. They're wanting that family to be respected, to be admired, just as they would want that for themselves.
It's a subtle distinction, but I think it's a really important one.
It is. It's reframing how we understand these acts that we often perceive as being selfless.
Right.
And this leads us to the core concept that the text presents, which is the true self, or Atman. And this true self is pure consciousness. It's distinct from all those layers we were talking about, the physical, the vital, the mental, the intellectual.
Right.
Those are seen as temporary and illusory.
So this true self exists beyond our kind of usual understanding of ourselves.
Exactly. And the text suggests that when we mistake the external world for this true self, that's the root of suffering. That's samsara. We're chasing after possessions, relationships, achievements, believing that they're going to bring us lasting happiness, but they can't.
Right, because they're not really our true self.
They're not our true self. And I think that resonates with so many people's experience, that sense of emptiness, that dissatisfaction, even when we're surrounded by the things that we thought would make us happy.
Absolutely. So if this true self is pure consciousness, how do we actually connect with it? What does the text say about the path to liberation?
It touches on these four aims of human existence: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha.
Okay.
It presents these not as separate goals, but as interconnected aspects of the path to liberation. So dharma is about aligning oneself with the eternal law of the self, living in accordance with truth and righteousness.
So living in alignment with dharma is a key step on the path to liberation.
Absolutely. Artha refers to material prosperity and security.
Okay.
It's about fulfilling your worldly needs and responsibilities, but in a way that supports your spiritual growth.
Okay. And what about kama?
Kama represents desire, pleasure, enjoyment. And the text emphasizes balance and harmony in pursuing these, always guided by dharma.
Right. So it's not about denying our desires, but maybe channeling them appropriately.
Exactly. And then finally, we have moksha, which is the ultimate goal: liberation from the cycle of birth and death, and the realization of our true nature as the self.
Okay, so what practical steps does the text suggest for actually reaching moksha?
It stresses the importance of a guru, a spiritual teacher, and satsanga, the company of like-minded seekers.
Mm.
It suggests that this path is best navigated with guidance and support.
Having a mentor in a community can be invaluable for any journey, especially one as, profound as this.
Absolutely. And one of the primary practices that the text describes is meditation. It actually outlines a specific form of meditation where you start by focusing on a physical object,
Okay.
and then gradually you abstract to a universal form before merging with the object of meditation.
That sounds like a practice for cultivating deep concentration, but also kind of a shift in perspective.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that meditation practice a bit further?
Sure. So the text recommends choosing a visible form, or Ishtadevata, like Rama, Krishna, Shiva, Devi, or any form that resonates with the individual.
Okay, so using a tangible representation as a focal point.
Right. And it's important to note that the idea is not to worship the image itself, but to use it as a stepping stone to connect with the formless essence that it represents.
Right, so it's a way to kind of train the mind to focus before moving to more abstract concepts.
Exactly. And the first stage involves gazing at the image with unwavering attention, gently guiding your mind back to the form whenever it wanders.
Okay, so cultivating single-pointed focus. And what comes next?
So once you can hold the image steadily in your mind's eye, even with your eyes closed, then you transition to contemplating the deity's abstract form. This requires a deeper level of concentration and abstraction. You're recognizing the essence beyond the physical.
So the practice is encouraging this shift from the concrete to the subtle.
Exactly. And then the third stage expands your awareness even further.
Okay.
The text encourages you to visualize this abstract form in every object in the universe.
Wow. That's a profound shift in perspective.
It is. It emphasizes the interconnectedness of all things, seeing the divine essence pervading all of creation. And this recognition can help overcome the mind's tendency towards distraction and restlessness.
Because instead of seeing all these separate objects, you're starting to perceive a kind of fundamental unity.
Precisely.
Okay, so what's the final stage?
In the fourth stage, the multiplicity of forms dissolves into a single, universal form of the divine being. And eventually, even this form vanishes, leading to the experience of oneness between the meditator's consciousness and the object of meditation.
This sounds like the state of samadhi described in yogic traditions.
It is. It's a state of complete absorption in the self, where all sense of separation dissolves. So the text is guiding us through this process of refinement, moving from the gross to the subtle, from the many to the one.
And this meditation practice seems really deeply intertwined with the concept of dharma,
Absolutely.
living in alignment with the self.
It is. And the text encourages us to apply this understanding to every aspect of our lives.
So it's about integrating that spiritual awareness into our daily actions.
Precisely. Acting not for personal gain, but for the sake of duty and the well-being of all.
This aligns with karma yoga, where each action is an offering to the divine.
Yes. It's about seeing the divine presence in everything we do.
But the text acknowledges that this path isn't always easy, right? It mentions some obstacles that an aspirant might encounter.
Yes. One of the first obstacles is drowsiness. The mind, used to distractions, it resists the stillness and focus that's needed for meditation. Doubt can also arise, questioning the practice, questioning the teachings, even questioning the existence of the self.
Yeah, those doubts can be really undermining, especially early on.
They can. Distraction is another big challenge. The mind is constantly jumping between thoughts, making focus difficult.
Right.
And of course, desire for pleasurable objects and experiences can very easily derail spiritual progress.
So these obstacles, they seem to be both external distractions but also internal tendencies.
They are. But the text offers guidance on how to overcome these challenges.
Okay.
Through self-discipline, disassociation from distracting objects, cultivating dispassion, and persistent effort.
So it sounds like a journey that requires inner work but also a supportive external environment.
It does, and the text emphasizes the importance of having a guru and the company of satsanga to help you navigate these complexities.
This has been a really insightful exploration of the meditation practice that's outlined in the text.
Yes,
But we've really only scratched the surface here.
we have.
The text also mentions 4 preconditions for self-realization, often referred to as the sadhana chatushtai.
Yes.
And I think that's what we should delve into next.
Let's do it. So these preconditions, they're also known as the sadhana chatushtaya.
Okay.
And they're really essential for kind of preparing the ground for self-realization. They address both our inner world and our interaction with the outer world.
It sounds like laying the foundation for a strong and stable spiritual practice.
Exactly.
So what's the first of these preconditions?
The first one is viveka, which translates to discrimination or discernment.
Okay.
It's the ability to differentiate between the real and the unreal, the permanent and the impermanent.
Hmm. It sounds like cultivating a deep understanding of the nature of reality.
It is, and our place within it. So, for instance, recognizing that material possessions, while they might bring temporary pleasure, they can't provide lasting happiness.
Right. So Vivek is about cultivating wisdom and clarity.
Precisely. It's about seeing things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be.
Mhm.
And this clarity is crucial for making choices that lead us towards liberation.
Okay. What about the second precondition?
The second one is vairagya, often translated as dispassion or detachment.
Now, some might interpret that as, renouncing the world, becoming a recluse. Is that accurate?
Not necessarily. Vairagya is not about physically withdrawing from the world, but it's about cultivating this inner freedom from attachments.
Okay. So it's about changing our relationship with the things that we desire,
Mhm.
not necessarily eliminating desire altogether.
Exactly. True happiness doesn't reside in external objects or experiences. When we're overly attached to things, we suffer when we lose them, or even in the fear of losing them.
Right.
Vairagya helps us to break free from that cycle of craving and aversion.
It's about finding contentment within ourselves rather than chasing those fleeting external satisfactions.
Exactly.
What's the third precondition?
The third one is shatsampat, which encompasses 6 virtues that are considered essential for spiritual progress.
Yep.
Tranquility of mind, control of the senses, withdrawal from sense objects, forbearance, faith, and concentration.
So these virtues, they seem to promote a stable kind of inner foundation.
They do.
Yeah.
They help us to manage the mind's fluctuations, the pull of the senses. They foster a supportive inner environment for spiritual growth.
So it's not just intellectual understanding or detachment. It's about cultivating these practical qualities that support our journey.
Right.
Okay. So what about the final precondition?
The fourth one is mukshutva. And this is an intense yearning for liberation, a deep desire to know the truth of our being.
So it sounds like the driving force behind our spiritual practice.
It is. It's the burning desire that keeps us going even when the path gets challenging. And this longing often arises from the insights that are gained through viveka and vairagya. As we start to see through the illusions of the world, as we loosen the grip of attachments, we naturally start to yearn for something more.
Right.
For that lasting peace and freedom that self-realization offers.
So these 4 preconditions, discrimination, detachment, the 6 virtues, and that yearning for liberation,
Right.
they seem to work together to kind of prepare us for this journey towards self-realization.
They do. They're like the fertile ground from which the seed of spiritual practice can sprout and flourish.
Okay. And the text emphasizes that this journey is best undertaken with the guidance of a guru and the support of satsanga.
Absolutely.
Right. So a guru can help you navigate those challenges, offer personalized guidance,
Yes.
while satsanga provides that sense of community and inspiration.
Exactly.
Does the text offer any specific examples of how these 4 preconditions kind of manifest in daily life?
Yeah, it highlights several practical applications. For instance, viveka, or discrimination, might involve recognizing the difference between essential needs and those fleeting desires, which helps us to make more conscious choices about, say, our consumption and lifestyle.
So applying viveka to our consumer choices.
Exactly.
Do I really need this, or am I being driven by, a fleeting desire?
Right. And vairagya, or detachment, that could manifest as releasing the need to control outcomes, or letting go of resentment towards past events.
So accepting the things that we cannot change,
Yeah.
choosing to focus on the present moment.
Exactly. And then the 6 virtues of shatsampat, these offer practical guidelines for navigating daily life. Tranquility of mind helps us to remain calm amidst life's ups and downs. Control of the senses helps us make conscious choices about what we allow into our minds. Forbearance allows us to patiently endure difficulties without losing our center. Faith sustains us when doubts arise, and concentration enables us to focus our energy on what truly matters.
It sounds like these virtues offer a toolkit for navigating challenges with grace and resilience.
They do. And lastly, mumukshutva, the yearning for liberation. That can manifest as a sincere desire for self-understanding, a willingness to question our assumptions, and a commitment to ongoing self-reflection.
So these preconditions provide both a framework for understanding the spiritual path, but also those practical tools for integrating these teachings into our daily life.
They do.
What other key insights does the text offer?
Well, the text emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings,
Hmm.
the understanding that our actions ripple outward, affecting the world around us.
So it's not just about personal liberation, it's about recognizing our responsibility to contribute to the well-being of others.
Exactly. And the text suggests that cultivating compassion and acting with kindness are natural outgrowths of recognizing that interconnectedness.
Does the text offer any specific guidance on how to cultivate compassion in our daily lives?
It encourages practicing empathy, actively listening to others, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being.
These practices can help us move beyond that self-centeredness and develop a more expansive sense of care and concern for others.
They can. The text also highlights the importance of forgiveness, both for ourselves and for others. Holding on to anger and resentment, it only perpetuates suffering.
Forgiveness can be a challenging practice, especially when we've been hurt or wronged.
It can be. But the text suggests that forgiveness is ultimately an act of self-liberation. It frees us from the burden of carrying that negativity, and it allows us to move forward with greater peace and clarity.
It resonates with the idea of releasing attachments, cultivating inner freedom.
It does. The text goes on to explore the concept of karma, suggesting that our actions create ripples in the universe, shaping our present and future experiences.
So the text affirms that law of cause and effect.
It does.
Our choices have consequences that extend beyond our immediate experience.
Exactly. And the text emphasizes that understanding karma is not about fatalism or resignation, but it's about recognizing the power that we have to shape our own destiny through mindful action.
Right. It's a call to take responsibility for our choices and their impact on the world around us.
It is. The text also encourages us to view challenges as opportunities for growth, suggesting that even difficult experiences can serve as catalysts for spiritual awakening.
So instead of resisting or avoiding those challenges, we can choose to face them with courage and openness,
Yes.
seeing them as opportunities for learning and transformation.
Precisely. The text reminds us that suffering is often a sign that we're clinging too tightly to something that's impermanent, or that our actions are out of alignment with our true nature.
So this perspective kind of invites us to examine the root of our suffering rather than simply trying to avoid or escape it.
It does.
It suggests that within every challenge, there's a seed of wisdom and an opportunity for growth.
Exactly. The text also highlights the importance of gratitude, suggesting that cultivating an attitude of appreciation for the blessings in our lives can shift our perspective and increase our overall sense of well-being.
So taking the time to acknowledge the good in our lives, even amidst the challenges, can help to cultivate a more positive and balanced outlook.
Exactly. Gratitude helps us to shift our focus away from what we lack and towards what we have, fostering that sense of contentment and abundance. And this sense of abundance, in turn, allows us to approach life with greater generosity and kindness.
These insights offer such a rich tapestry of wisdom and practical guidance for navigating this path to liberation. But what about the different yogas that are mentioned in the text? Can you elaborate on those and their role in facilitating self-realization?
Sure. So the text briefly touches upon various yogas, including karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, and raja yoga, highlighting their shared goal of moving away from attachment to the external and towards self-realization.
Can you explain those distinctions between the different yogas a bit more?
Certainly. So karma yoga, as we touched upon earlier, emphasizes selfless action, performing your duties without attachment to the fruits of those actions. It's about dedicating our actions to a higher purpose, seeing work as a form of worship.
So it's about finding meaning and purpose in our daily activities, offering them as a service to something greater than ourselves.
Exactly. Bhakti yoga, on the other hand, emphasizes devotion and love as the path to union with the divine.
Okay.
It involves cultivating a deep and heartfelt connection with a chosen deity or spiritual ideal, and expressing that devotion through practices like chanting, singing, and prayer.
So Bhakti Yoga is about surrendering to a higher power through love and devotion.
Precisely. Jnana yoga emphasizes the path of knowledge and wisdom, using inquiry, self-reflection, and study to discern the true nature of reality and the self.
So Jnana Yoga encourages that questioning mind and deep exploration of philosophical and spiritual teachings.
Yes. It's about using the intellect to penetrate the illusions of the mind and attain self-knowledge. And finally, Raja Yoga is the path of meditation and mental discipline,
Oh, okay.
It involves practices like breath control, concentration, and visualization to quiet the mind and attain higher states of consciousness.
So Raja Yoga emphasizes practices that cultivate focus, clarity, and stillness of mind.
Precisely. And the text suggests that these different yogas aren't mutually exclusive, but they can be practiced in a complementary way, each supporting the other.
So individuals can kind of choose a path that resonates with their own temperament and inclinations, or even incorporate aspects of different yogas into their practice.
Exactly. The key is to find a path that feels authentic and sustainable, supporting your journey towards self-realization.
This overview of the different yogas offers such a rich landscape of practices and approaches to explore.
It does.
But we're nearing the end of our segment here.
We are.
Before we wrap up, can you just briefly recap the key points that we've covered?
Sure. So we delved into the 4 preconditions for self-realization: Viveka, Vairagya, Shatsvampat, and Mumukshutva. We explored their practical applications in daily life. We also discussed the interconnectedness of all beings, the importance of compassion and forgiveness, the concept of karma, and the opportunity for growth within challenges. And finally, we touched upon those different yogas, highlighting their shared goal of moving towards self-realization.
This has been a really profound exploration of the text's wisdom and guidance for navigating the path to liberation.
It has.
But there's one final aspect we haven't yet discussed.
Right.
And that's the role of the guru in satsanga.
Yes.
And I think that's what we should explore further in our concluding segment.
So as we were saying, the text really emphasizes the importance of having a guru and satsanga on this path to liberation. You know, it suggests that trying to navigate this journey alone, well, it can be really challenging.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know, you might encounter a lot of obstacles.
Right. It makes sense that having guidance and support would be invaluable, especially when you're dealing with these, really complex concepts and practices. Can you talk a bit more about the role of the guru specifically?
Sure. The text portrays the guru as like a beacon of wisdom. Someone who has walked this path themselves and can guide others through those, sometimes tricky twists and turns.
So the guru isn't simply a teacher of information. They're kind of a living example of those teachings.
Precisely. You know, a true guru embodies the qualities of self-realization. They radiate compassion, wisdom, inner peace, and their presence alone can be so inspiring and uplifting.
Yeah.
It gives you a glimpse of what's possible on the path.
It sounds like the guru-disciple relationship is one of deep trust and reverence.
It is. The text suggests that the guru's guidance is really essential for clarifying doubts, correcting any misconceptions you might have, and just providing more personalized instruction.
Right.
That's tailored to the disciple's unique needs and temperament.
So the guru acts kind of like a mentor, right? Guiding and supporting the disciple's spiritual growth.
Exactly. And the text also emphasizes the importance of satsanga, the company of like-minded seekers.
Right. How does satsanga contribute to the journey?
Well, satsanga provides this really supportive environment where people can share their experiences, encourage each other, learn from each other's insights. It creates that sense of community, of belonging, reminding you that you're not alone on this path.
Right. Yeah. It's a powerful antidote to that feeling of isolation that I think sometimes accompanies spiritual seeking.
It is. The text suggests that satsanga can actually help to strengthen your resolve, inspire you to keep practicing, and offer a safe space for you to process both the challenges and the triumphs along the way.
This emphasis on guidance and community really highlights the importance of human connection on this path, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not just about solitary practice, but it's about learning from and supporting one another.
It is. The text reminds us that while the journey is ultimately an individual one, we don't have to walk it alone.
That's a really nice point to end on, I think.
I think so, too.
This has been such an illuminating deep dive into the essence of samsara and the path to liberation.
Yes.
We've explored so much.
We have.
The nature of life, the layers of self, the root of suffering, and that path to liberation.
Right.
We even delved into those specific meditation practices and the 4 preconditions for self-realization. We examined the different yogas and their shared goal. And finally, this really crucial role of the guru and satsanga. So much good stuff in this text.
There is. And it really offers this profound invitation to turn inward, to embark on that journey of self-discovery, to recognize our true nature as the self.
It encourages us to cultivate wisdom, detachment, virtue, and a yearning for liberation, guiding us toward, hopefully, a life of greater peace, purpose, and fulfillment.
Absolutely. And reminds us that true happiness isn't found in external things, but in realizing that inherent oneness with all that is.
So beautifully said. If this exploration has resonated with you, we highly encourage you to go back and revisit the source text and maybe even experiment with some of the practices it outlines. As always, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.